Hello everybody and welcome back to yet another episode of Turning Tuesday. Now I don't have a whole lot of time in the workshop today, but it has been heavily requested by you guys and a former work colleague that I get stuck in with making a pen. So this one's for you, Steve. Let's get going. Now I'm not going to lie, I have made a pen before. Where is it? I've just chucked it in with all my other rubbish. There we go. It's walnut with like gold hardware and a stylus thingy that works on your phone. I also had Rosie come into the workshop a few weeks ago and make one herself out of pink ivory and gold hardware. She likes to keep things subtle, as you can see. To be honest, this is a pretty easy project, but this series is about challenging myself. Over here in my wood pile, there you go, I saw it earlier, I have got some black palm, which is a horrible material to work, but it does look pretty sweet on the end grain. Not that you're going to see it, but this is the reason I bought it. I was actually making little boxes out of it, or I was hoping to make little boxes out of it by using the end grain, but I just haven't got around to it. It's been sat around for ages and I've got another length of it anyway, so it doesn't matter. And by the way, if you want to see more of my work, such as things like this little box, then have a look at my website. Link is in the description. You can also buy things like t-shirts and plans and stuff there as well. I'd appreciate it if you had a look. Let's get cutting this up. Right, so the first thing I've got to do is drill out the center of these to fit a little brass tube that goes in there, holds the mechanism in place, and I guess adds a bit of support to the inside of the wood. I've seen this done on both the pillar drill and on the lathe. The pillar drill, because I don't have a vise that holds the wood upright as you're drilling it, I'm just going to do it in the lathe. I'm going to hold it in the chuck and then mount a 3-jaw chuck in the tailstock with a 7mm drill bit, which is what this pen kit calls for. Then I'm going to turn the lathe on and drill this all the way through bit by advancing the tailstock, maybe shifting the entire thing itself. When I do this, ideally I would have had a set of pen jaws to hold this block in place. That will provide more support further up the blank, but I didn't get a set. I think they're out of stock when I bought all this stuff for the lathe. But it fits in the 4-jaw chuck just fine because it's a smaller blank, but if it was slightly larger it wouldn't be able to get in there and you would need pen jaws. Anyway. Alright, so the barrels are glued in place and now I need to sand the end grain of the wood to be flush with the barrels. Now you could do this with what's called a barrel trimmer. That's a really cheap way of doing it, and more importantly it keeps the ends parallel to one another, because with a disc sander you have a higher chance of getting those ends out of parallel. The reason for this would be because the block that you're starting with isn't parallel to begin with. If this was slightly wedge shaped or something like that, you could sand it like that, it would get this end square, but then if you flipped it over like this, if that other side was wedged, then it would start doing that on the opposite side, and thus the ends wouldn't be square to each other, and that would affect the pen when it's assembled. So when I sand this, I've got 2 square edges that were nice and flat when I cut this block to size to begin with on the bandsaw. So when I sand this, I need to make sure that I've got one flat face on the bed, the other flat face on here. So then I'll sand this side, and then in order to get to the other side, I've got to, what have I got to do? Flip it over and then roll it twice as well. And then I've got a flat side there. Oh wait, no, it's there. Hang on, what have I got to do here? Either way, as long as you're referencing off the same 2 sides when you're sanding this square on the disc sander, belt sander, whatever you're using, the ends should in theory be parallel to one another. Let's hope anyway. Okay, now I've got to mount those blanks onto the pen turning mandrel and we'll actually get started on it. Okay, so that's on there. It may need tightening once I get going because this is just held by friction and yeah, they can still turn, but you don't want to tighten it too much because then the mandrel just bends. So I'll leave it like that for the time being, see if it starts grabbing, and then just tighten it a bit more. I have been looking at your comments with regards to the tool rest height. Apparently I was pretty much correct when it came to using a skew chisel. That should be just above center, or it helps with it being just above center. However, with the gouge, apparently it works best to be just below center. And a scraper, not that I've used it in this series yet, but that should be pretty much center on there. So I'm going to have another go following what you guys have said. When I'm roughing it, I'm going to have it a bit below center, because at the end of the last two videos, I have felt a little bit achy. My hands and arms definitely haven't been in a comfortable position. Because I haven't had the experience, I didn't really think to put it down to the location of this. So yeah, we'll have the tool rest a bit lower, and I have also fixed the lathe in place so it's not going to keep scooting back across the workbench as well, because that was incredibly annoying, and obviously you guys pointed it out because in the time lapses it's just running everywhere. Right, let's rough this down. I'm going to adjust the tool rest height as I go, just have a play around. All right, I've got it round, so everything I do from here on, I'm going to have a go at doing with the skew, because I definitely need more practice with it. Right, so now I've got you guys at a lower camera angle. I'm going to put the tool rest height like there. No, a bit lower than that. So then, what was the reason for this? I can't remember. I think it's because then you're cutting at the top of the work, and then more of the cutting force is towards you rather than down on the tool rest. I can't remember. I'm just going to have a go with it. This seems very high, actually. I'm actually cutting on the top of the wood. No, that can't be right. I'm going to lower it a bit. All right, let's have a go with that. That'll do as an overhead mount for now, won't it? It's not quite, I want it to be like directly above, but that should be fine. Right, where's the skew? There. Okay, I'm going to try this, have a go at messing around with that tool rest height again. Yeah, that's above center. Let's go for it. Cool, right, I've turned that down to the bushings. I didn't actually explain that to those of you who haven't done pen turning before. Basically, on the pen mandrel, you can put different size bushings to suit different size pen kits. So all you do is put the bushings on that matches the pen kit that you want to use, turn the wood down to match the diameter of those, and maybe put a bulge in it, or you could do whatever you want really. And that's all there is to it. Did you guys notice I was doing a sort of upside down cut with the skew this time? Oh my lord, is that a nice cut to carry out. Basically what happened last week, I think it was a smaller one of these actually, I was getting quite a lot of whipping, which is where you're using the skew and the wood is slightly recoiling off of it, and then you kind of get weird facets all over the face. I was noticing it a little bit with this, but by doing that, it puts more of the cutting force on the headstock, and then it's less likely to rebound, apparently. Well, it definitely does, because that is... It's not completely smooth because this wood is so open grain and chippy, but yeah, I'm gonna have a go at finishing it now. I'll get the tool rest and everything out the way so I don't get my fingers trapped. So I'm gonna start with a bit of 180 grit and take it all the way up to 400, I think. Okay, that's looking lovely. I am tempted to try a super glue finish on this. Never done it before. I think I need to watch a quick video on how it's done, but like this stuff, because it's so coarse, because it's so open grained, yes, I've got it smooth now, but if this has any sort of weird stress on it at all, then I reckon that wood is just going to snap. So a super glue finish will provide a hard wearing finish, and it should also strengthen it as well. I think it will be... I mean, it'll be a fun experiment for me. If this goes to pot, then who cares? It's just a pen. And we are back. I've just watched a video on how to apply a super glue finish. It seems pretty simple. It's kind of what I was expecting. Just going to cover the lathe bed in some blue cloth so that none of the super glue falls on there or onto the motor unit below, which would be bad. First thing I need to do is just make sure there's no dust left over on there, so I'm going to wipe this down. The video stated denatured alcohol. I don't have any of that here, but I do have methylated spirits. Yes, it's purple, but this blank is dark, and like I've never had a problem with methylated spirits dyeing timber or anything like that. Besides, it's only a little bit of it, and I get to see what the pen looks like when it's finished as well, which should be pretty cool. I've just lost the lid for it. Oh, you plonker. Oh, there it is. In the video, it stated using paper towel to apply the super glue, and he also said that he used Titebond medium CA glue, which is exactly the same glue I used to glue the barrels within the pen blanks, so it's convenient I've got that knocking round. There will be a link to this video in the description as well. But yeah, I'm going to put on 7 coats of this, is what it said. Bit of a weird number, but I'm going to trust him, and I'm not going to apply it while the lathe is powered, because that is just going to put super glue everywhere. I'm going to do it just while rotating it with my hands to start with. This is the point where I wish I had some activator, because I'm going to have to wait between each of these coats for this to dry. How long does it take? 30 seconds. All right, this could be a few minutes. Oh, I'm not going to lie, I've made a right old hash of this. Oh my lord. I think you definitely need activator between coats, because 30 seconds for this stuff to dry was not right. I put on 1 coat, put on the 2nd coat, perfectly fine. Put on the 3rd coat and the cloth just stuck to it and wrapped around it, and now like every subsequent coat has just got worse, and it just, oh my lord, this is not good. It's almost dry now. I'm just going to wipe off the excess glue that isn't hardening. I'll definitely be trying this again in the future with activator. Oh, I've just got so much fluff stuck to this. Well, it's definitely got a nice grippy finish now. Oh, there's gonna be no saving this. No saving this, surely. All right, let's get this sanded down then, shall we? And see what glorious things await underneath. So I'm using the micro mesh pads for this. There will be links to these in the description. Not that this is going to be a good, this is not going to be a good selling point for them, but trust me, the finish you get on these is gorgeous. Normally, in any normal circumstances, apart from this. I mean, it looks shiny in places, but there's just weird bits of cloudiness, which is most likely where it didn't dry properly. Although it might actually scrub off. I am going to get some polishing paste on this and see what that does. Nope, still looks rubbish, but it still looks shiny too. I'm gonna go back through the micro mesh pads and see if I can just sand it until that white stuff goes. I am in such a rush now. I have got no idea what I want to do with this. I'm going to finish it. Friction polish, sod it. Let's just put that on it. This is going to be a workshop pen that's never going to see the light of day. Damn super glue. I'm going to come back and revisit this finish with a vengeance. You watch. Probably shouldn't have gloves on, I've just realised. That might get caught in the lathe. There we go, before you guys comment. That'll do for that. Then I'll just put some Hampshire Sheen pen turner's overcoat on it to help protect it a little bit more. That'll do. Let's see what that looks like. I mean, it's not bad, it's not good. There's still white marks and stuff. Sod it, let's assemble it. I think it's very much a lost cause at this point. So there are instructions on how to assemble this, but I'm just gonna try and do it from memory. Bottom goes in first. I'm really not fussy about, normally you would try and like grain match it so it looks nice, but this just isn't gonna look nice at all. So we're just gonna put it together and hope for the best. Hey, well there we go, it works. It doesn't look, there's a few bits on it. Let's get a macro lens on it. I mean, it's not bad. There's just a few small patches of like white and rubbish and gunk on it here and there. There we go, around that centre bit there towards the clip. It's just all white and not very nice in there. But other than that, I mean, it's not bad. It was an all right save. I could have put more effort into it, but I've got other things to do. It's just going to be a workshop pen. So in regards to a super glue finish, I will be revisiting it with a vengeance, hopefully armed with some activator next time so that it actually dries between coats and I don't get fluff stuck between each of the layers. But yeah, that's it for Turning Tuesday this week. If you enjoyed this episode or you have any suggestions, I'm sure you will, chuck them in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video if you haven't already. And if you want to see more of my work, things like, oh, that's where all my dowels went. If you want to see more of my work, be sure to visit my website. Link to that is also in the description. See you in the next video.